We have another exciting guest on this podcast. He's from one of our favorite parties around here, the Libertarian Party. We love to have Libertarians speak on our podcast. They're full of energy. They're full of great ideas. And he represents what he calls the informal caucus of the Libertarian Party. It's called the Water Drinkers Caucus. His name is Mark. So welcome to the podcast, Mark.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're glad to have you, Mark. So if we get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
Sure. My name is Mark Tanser. I live in South Florida. By trade, I'm a precious metals dealer. I've been in the metals and coins industry since actually a little bit before and during college, but started full time a few months after. I realized I was a libertarian my second year of college during the fall of 2008 bank bailouts, and heard Ron Paul and Peter Schiff commenting on why not only they were immoral, which I felt, but why they were economically destructive and counterproductive. And I've been involved in the Libertarian Party and liberty stuff ever since my second year of college. And what else? Is that a good summary there?
That's a great summary, and I have some to follow up on it, so that's giving you some food for thought. So that's great. So you're a precious metal dealer, so I take it that you support the gold standard?
Well, yes, but being a metals dealer does not necessitate supporting the gold standard.
Okay.
And in fact, if we did have either a gold standard or an otherwise sound system of money and banking, my bullion business, which accounts for maybe between 70 and 90% of my capital and time and effort, would effectively not really be much of a business because there would be so much stability that there wouldn't be much of a need to make markets in bullion. That said, with sound money and banking, we'd probably have such a great economy that the collectible stuff would be doing great, the numismatics, rare coins, collectible paper money, all this stuff. So I would still be busy in my industry, but my focus would be a lot heavier on what currently my focus is not huge in.
That's good. That's good for more reasons than one. One being that we want you to have a good economic background, we want you to have a means to a paycheck no matter what the economy is like, no matter what the government does. Also, it's good because your interests are then tied to the best interests of the country.
Well, for the precious metals dealers who look at it that they're just dealing in bullion, their interests might counteract the interests of the country. But for somebody like me who's able to do everything, yes, I'd rather be making higher margins on numismatics rather than the tiny margins on bullion if we had a good economy. So in my case, absolutely, my personal interests do align with the greatness of the economy and the health of it.
Perfect. So in regards to the profession you're in, does the government what government regulations are there that affect you, or are there not too many? Is the government staying out of that?
Yeah, so metals, it's weird where it's kind of an industry that has very little regulations, but depending on your circumstances, the regulations that do apply could be enforced very strictly and could, violations could cause penalties, fines, shutting down businesses, depending on whether it's buying or selling and what it is. And there's federal issues with taxes and IRS paperwork. Separate from that, there's like, for example, in Florida, if you're a secondhand dealer with a secondhand dealer's license, if you have a shop, you need to do reporting on scrap metal like carat gold and old sterling silver sets, not bullion and coins, but this other stuff, jewelry, and that also involves a hold period. So you have to report it, go through paperwork, and it ties up a lot of capital and it involves market risk. So there's that issue as well, holding it in case it was stolen, and you give a report and they might theoretically recover it. There's the anti-money laundering stuff at the federal level is the biggest thing in my industry as far as that's massively affected some dealers. A lot of banks are hesitant to deal with coin dealers, to have coin dealer accounts, simply because the industry has been flagged as high risk for money laundering, which is just a bunch of nonsense. It's a way for the government to have they use the BS war on drugs and the BS war on terror as excuses to get into our financial privacy. So that's what that stuff is all about. Yeah.
It sounds far-fetched.
And they put pressure not only on coin dealers but on banks and other financial institutions that deal with coin dealers. Yeah.
Yeah. Goodness gracious. I don't see the link with. I don't imagine too many terrorist groups or drug dealers are using gold or silver to hide their stuff. So that sounds out there. It sounds, like you said, it sounds like a rationalization for them to impede on that.
Exactly. They're mostly probably using cash. Some of them are probably using Bitcoin and other crypto. That's not an indictment of crypto, by the way. It's just a statement of fact. But it's probably mostly cash anyway that they're using.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm. So, from a libertarian perspective, would you briefly give an analysis of the last election?
Yeah. So I guess just to say where I'm coming from, as of, I suppose 2.5 years ago, I was part of the camp within the Libertarian Party and probably the broader liberty movement of supporting comedian Dave Smith for the Libertarian Party nomination.
Okay.
And he had never said explicitly that he was going to, but there were hints all over the place, and it was generally understood. Then, come a year prior to, a year and 3-4 months prior to the general election, so this would be last summer, 1.5 years ago by now, maybe that July or August, Dave had made the announcement that he was not seeking the LP nomination, that he was not going to be running for president. So once he was out, given that it didn't seem like Spike Cohen or Justin Amash, who are really the other two really great names in the Libertarian Party that generally present the message really, really well and are generally very popular. Some people have issues with Justin Amash, but put that aside. Understanding that they were not going to jump in, at that point, I was not confident in a Libertarian Party candidate, and within the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus, with which I associate, I disapproved of even putting up a candidate from our faction to run for the nomination. And anyway, so that's what my perspective. Then there was Bobby Kennedy, who had been on the Libertarian podcast circuit after he came out with his book on Anthony Fauci. And even I think soon before that, I became interested in Bobby Kennedy. And while I wasn't going to register Democratic Party, I was giving moral support to his campaign within the Democratic Party. And then once he went independent, I was kind of all in on his campaign. Not that I did much volunteer work. I did a tiny bit, but I was supporting Bobby Kennedy for various reasons, mostly because of the two most important issues to me being the Ukraine war as well as the COVID stuff. The two issues where Bobby Kennedy is pretty much the best on and very libertarian on his policies on those. So really appreciated that. And then, I like a few things that Trump had said from 2015 on, but I never trusted him. And then looking at how he was actually president, again, he did a couple or a few good things, but then he ignored half of his promises and then went back on like 40% of his promises doing the opposite. So pretty much I didn't trust him until Bobby Kennedy decided to trust him, a few weeks after Trump was shot at the assassination attempt that actually hit him in Pennsylvania. So it took me a couple weeks after Bobby Kennedy's endorsement of Trump, but I was listening to it live. I was driving around Florida on my way to a trade show, and it took me a couple weeks, but I did decide to endorse Trump. So obviously I was happy that he won and that he won commandingly. Did us libertarians put him over the top? No. We're only 3%, and almost none of us were going to be voting for Harris. But did we help give him that, extra edge to demonstrate that he had a mandate? I would say we were very, very influential in that, and even more so Bobby Kennedy supporters, whether they were libertarians or no party affiliation or other party members. So, so that's what I thought of the election. I was not particularly happy with most of the other stuff in Florida as far as the ballot questions, but I was satisfied with the presidential election, certainly. Okay,
that's interesting. I didn't expect that. So one thing I saw that Trump supports is, now of course it's going to be a matter whether he carries through with it. So, but one thing that I saw that he supports is a very libertarian thing. He's talking about getting rid of the Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that?
Oh, 100%. It's only been around since either Reagan or maybe Nixon, so it hasn't been around all that much time. Since it's been around, coincided when we ended the gold standard in 1971, and price increases of college tuition as well as costs to the taxpayers per student for public education have gone up, along with health care costs. And pretty much anything that's most directly subsidized and regulated by the government has been hit by inflation the worst. And the Department of Education has been part of that. Obviously, the No Child Left Behind failed. I could tell that based on who was graduating with me during high school. And I went to a pretty good public school in North Jersey, but where like most of the students went to college, but I still was graduating with people who didn't seem to deserve to graduate. So I could tell in 2007 or even prior that No Child Left Behind wasn't working. All these federal programs are nonsense. The U.S. Constitution doesn't give any authority to Congress to be regulating education or to be appropriating money to education. So constitutionally and utilitarian-wise, there's no justification for the existence of this. It should be entirely abolished.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So that's exciting. Let's. That would be great if he goes through with it. So we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep. That exciting things are happening. I also like I'm a proponent of individuals not having to be forced to go to school. So anything that is like the homeschoolers believe. So I think anything that the less the government is involved, the better for schooling, because the more in the hands of the people are better. So we'll see how this goes.
Absolutely. I'm a big proponent of homeschooling myself.
Great. It's a very libertarian way of living.
Sure.
So the Water Drinkers Caucus, is that a caucus for people who believe in the supremacy of water? Is it a caucus for people who think we should drink water regularly? Is it a caucus for people who don't want to ban water? The government should control water? What's it all about?
Mostly my motivation of it was twofold. One, seeing a bunch of kind of informal caucuses, or one might call quote unquote meme caucuses, and at all these conventions, there's all these delegates and other attendees who are drinking alcohol, and meanwhile, whether or not I'm drinking alcohol, I always have a water bottle with me, and I see almost nobody else drinking water, and I don't know how people are surviving. So during that meme caucus time a few years ago, I saw that and figured it was the perfect idea. I posted a few memes to it, which do suggest the supremacy of water over other drinks.
Sure.
I also do make mention in the Facebook page, in the description of the caucus, that you could like whatever water you want. I do speak negatively of Dasani and Aquafina and other quote-unquote filtered with minerals added water. But I say, if that's your jazz, then, go for it. But I did specifically say that we take a stance opposing the adding fluoridation to the drinking water.
Okay. So what is your issue with fluoridation? Kindly describe.
Well, sure. So I actually served on the Palm Beach Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Supervisors for 4 years as an elected official. Served one scandal-free term. And toward the end of my term, I had proposed maybe 3 or 4 sense of the board resolutions, and one of them was actually on this very topic. And I had found a couple of works from Harvard. One of them was a review of the literature, and another one maybe was a peer-reviewed journal article in itself, or maybe was kind of more of an intellectual / public-facing thing rather than a scholarly thing. But they were both published by Harvard, institutions, Harvard Magazine and something else. And then I had an Ohio State University study. None of these studies and reviews showed any benefit to teeth or otherwise for ingesting fluoride. they did show that teeth across the world have gotten better, but that not only coincides with fluoridation of drinking water, but it also coincides with more people brushing teeth and having an overall higher standard of living.
Okay.
However, this increase in teeth health has occurred both in countries that fluoridate their water and in countries that don't fluoridate their water. Okay,
Oh, wow.
so we don't see any benefit to ingesting fluoride. What we do see is demonstrated lower IQ in places that do fluoridate their water. I'm not sure if that's comparing one place to another or if it's comparing one place before fluoridation to it after being fluoridated, but by some metric, lower IQ for those that fluoridate their water, and it bioaccumulates, it stays in your body, and it's not good. There's no benefit to it. Separately, I don't even brush my teeth with fluoridated toothpaste, but
Oh, you don't?
that I don't claim is good or bad. I don't know. I personally don't like it. And I always felt a
Oh.
tiny bit sick. I always felt a tiny bit sick after using regular toothpaste. So ever since I've
Huh.
gone to fluoride free, I don't feel anything bad. So yeah.
So you use like Tom's of Maine then?
Say that again?
You use Tom's of Maine for toothpaste?
No, I don't use Tom's of Maine because that still has it either has carrageenan or it has something else that I haven't looked too deeply into, but I'm suspect of. I use this brand I get on Amazon. It's called Himalayan or Himalaya or something like that. There's a few different flavors, and it's super, super clean toothpaste.
Okay. So
Yeah.
So it seems like there might be an issue between whether fluoridation is good for teeth in toothpaste and also whether it's good for teeth in the public water supply. So
Yeah,
do you think
it's definitely not
fluoridation, it
good.
might be good in toothpaste but not in the water supply, or it could be the same
Yeah,
for
there's
both?
no evidence. There's no evidence that it's good in the public water supply and only evidence to suggest it's bad. So there's no benefit with almost definite, at least marginal harm. Toothpaste is not something I've done enough research on, so I cannot comment specifically on that.
Okay. So given this, why do so many places put fluoride in their water?
A lot of them later on were just copycats and, copying whatever the establishment told them to do. They thought they were being good citizens and good city planners or, city, administrators, whatever. But, there's a lot of, benefits to the corporations that get to sell the fluoride compounds. One of the fluoride compounds used in fluoridation of drinking water is hydrofluoric silicic acid or something like that. It's been years since I've looked this up, but it's actually an industrial waste product. So instead of them having to pay to dispose of it, they actually get paid to deliver it to municipalities to fluoridate their drinking water. So I'm not anti-corporation, just like I'm not anti-worker, but I am. I'm for the corporations. They get their profits, but they got to pay their expenses. And disposing of their waste is something that they should have to pay for and be responsible for.
Oh, sure. Okay, that's a good point. Also, do you think the government should be in the business of distributing water to the masses? I think a lot of libertarians might oppose that, yet there might be some that would say that's such a basic service that it's something that's okay for the government to do. So what do you think?
I'm sure it could be done privately, and it would be done better privately. In the aggregate, I definitely believe that. Look at Flint, Michigan's government poisoning their people. But as far as the logistics of how it would be run, would one town sell to one company and another town sell maybe to the same or different company, or would several companies be involved in one town and all sharing the pipes? I don't know the logistics. I do suspect probably Professor Walter Block or other anarcho-capitalists have commented on that issue. One related issue would be bottling water with Nestle that owns all these brands that get these sweetheart deals over getting to bottle water, and they might pay $50 or $10 a year to a city for the license, and that's it. They don't actually pay per gallon. It's just a license fee, and that's it. Some people don't like that, and that's understandable. That's certainly corporatism. But That said, would you rather Nestle, under the guise of Poland Spring or Zephyr Hills or Ozarka, would you rather them be doing the bottling, or would you rather actually government be bottling that water to sell it?
Huh.
Honestly, the corporatism is going to poison less people, and then socialism will. So if it's going to happen, actually don't have a huge problem with how it's done. Could it be done more morally and more libertarian? Probably. Maybe an open bidding process. Maybe a town buys the rights forever or for 10 years, but there's a bidding process to it. I don't know, but the direct socialism versus the direct corporatism is less destructive. And I drink that water. It seems to be good for me.
Okay. So you personally avoid tap water, or you just prefer bottled water?
Yeah, I've never really liked tap water. It's okay in New Jersey. You get the Adirondack water or whatever, but certainly in Florida, you don't drink the tap water in Florida. That's not really a thing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the United States, there's places like besides Flint that you wouldn't drink the tap water of?
Yeah, Florida, it's never tasted good, and at least I think here, it's in Delray, there's quite a lot of chlorine in it. It's supposed to keep it clean, but probably not good for our skin and certainly not good to digest. Plus, they do fluoridate the drinking water in the city of Delray, where I am. By the way,
Okay.
they don't fluoridate the drinking water supply in the city of Boca Raton, which is just south of me. So that's interesting.
Huh.
Not every place does fluoridate their water, but Delray does. And so for that reason, I wouldn't drink it. And even before I knew about the water fluoridation or cared about it, I just knew from family that had lived down here before I moved here that it's just not something you do is drink the tap water in Florida.
Okay. Okay, so we're talking about why the cities and municipalities fluoridate their water, and we discussed how it's mostly because it's the way things are done, and they're not questioning it, and it's established way of proceeding, and they're following orders. So for the cities that aren't doing it,
Combined with the incentive that the people have to sell, the institutions have to sell it to the towns. Both of those reasons
okay.
combined. Yes. Yep.
Okay. So for the cities that aren't, was there conscious decisions behind it because it was not the status quo, or are they also the same thing that in their particular area is established and that's what they're doing and they're so what do you think? Do you think there's conscious choice behind the ones that aren't fluoridating the water?
That's a really good question. I really have to imagine there is a conscious choice, but I don't know.
Okay. And it might vary from place to place. There might be some places that are open about it and other places that aren't thinking about the details, so they just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon the pun.
Yes.
So is there anybody that is resisting your promotion of water? I can imagine if you're talking about alcohol, the alcohol companies that might not want that because they want more people to drink alcohol. So are there any resistance that way? Is that people wanting to avoid so their products can sell more?
No, nobody. As far as the Libertarian Party Water Drinkers Caucus, there has been no opposition. And I'm sure one day when I do show up to a national convention with a bunch of bottled water labeled with my business as well as the caucus on it to give out for free, I'm sure I will get no pushback either. I'm sure it'll be taken it'll be taken kindly and people will be very thankful.
That's good. That sounds rare for a caucus in any party, that there would be no opposition. So it sounds like you got a universal movement on hand.
Yeah, most people don't know about it or care about it, but certainly no opposition. It's going to be only positive. I have to imagine that's similar to the Libertarian Party Waffle House caucus. I can't imagine. Yeah, they cook their stuff in vegetable oil. It's disgusting gloop. That said, Waffle House is delicious. So anybody who opposes LP Waffle House caucus, there's probably as few people that would oppose the LP Water Drinkers caucus.
Okay. So besides water, what beverages do you like to drink, or are you mostly a water drinker?
Mostly water. I'll drink vodka or scotch here and there. And I certainly don't drink fruit juice. Sometimes I'm having
Oh,
grape juice Friday night in observance of the Sabbath, but that's it's really all I drink, really.
okay. So you don't drink any non-alcoholic alternatives to water.
Other than that grape juice Friday nights, no, not that I can think of.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry. No, well,
interesting.
I drink coffee. Actually, no, I drink coffee. I actually make Cuban coffee every morning, but I use maple syrup rather than white sugar.
Oh, Cuban coffee.
Yeah.
So Cubans make good coffee?
Yeah, it's just espresso. That's super sweet. Where you stir the first bit of coffee in with the sweetener, and in my case, I froth that up with my espresso machine. But yeah, it's just effectively super sweet espresso.
Okay, interesting. I don't usually think of Cubans as the coffee, the ones who do the best coffee, but it sounds like it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, being in South Florida, it's somewhat ubiquitous.
Okay, so it's not too hard to get down there.
No, not every place has it, but certainly the Cuban place is the really famous place. Probably one of the first couple times I ever had it was at Versailles, which is down in
Oh,
Miami. All the politicians go and visit there when they're on their campaigns, and it's kind of a really cool informal place. It's not expensive. It's very typical Cuban, really really good. But I'm sure that's probably the first place I tried it. And there's this Cuban place in Boca that actually a client has taken me to a couple times, and I love their stuff. So, yeah, that's how I got into Cuban coffee.
great. So what about bubbly water? What do you think about that?
I have some in my fridge, seltzer. I do actually occasionally drink it, but not much. Maybe once a month
Okay.
or something. Yeah.
Okay, how does that affect water? Does it make it, is it better for the water? Is it harder on the water?
I don't know. I used to be against carbonation, but I think that was
Oh,
really just the stuff. But I think that was just the sugar in
okay.
the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi, or really the corn syrup, even worse, that was
Yeah.
affecting me badly, and not the carbonation. So I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
I don't think for me. I don't think it's better or worse.
Oh, okay. I did research on this for dental reasons, and I found out that through the dental journal was bubbly water is slightly acidic. Not enough to cause tooth decay. The unflavored bubbly water is slightly acidic. The flavored bubbly water, the flavoring is acidic. So even though that you may not have sugar with it, the flavoring is acidic enough to cause tooth decay. So that's why diet soda can be bad for your teeth, even though it doesn't have sugar. So it's interesting.
Yes.
So how can our listeners out there support the Libertarian Party, yourself, and the Water Drinkers Caucus?
For the Water Drinkers Caucus, you can join the Facebook page. I don't log into my Facebook very often, and when I do, I'm not always checking it, but one day in a galaxy far away, I might get to accepting you. If it is something you have to apply to enter, I would assume you could just click like or something. I forget. I think it's a page, not a group, but, or maybe I have both. But so that's really all you can do to support them until maybe a few months before the next national convention. I might get something going, and maybe a small fundraiser to get some water bottles distributed there. Otherwise, you can support me by going to southfloridabullion.com and contacting me through my contact link. It's also taggarttrading.com is also another way to get to my website. My business is named Taggart Trading, Taggart. And if you want to buy precious metals or you have some to sell, definitely contact me. Or if you just want to get the rundown of, maybe you are considering investing in silver or gold one day, you don't want to do it now, but you want to learn what that's all about, also contact me. I'm delighted to go through that and talk about that and answer any questions you have on it. How you can support the Libertarian Party, certainly lp.org. That will get you to the Libertarian Party's website, and you can donate right there. You can get involved and volunteer for activism and for various committee positions and all of that at the national level. You can also get involved at your county or state level. Not every county, but many counties you can get involved at that level. And at the state party level, where I'm most involved in these days with the LPS. But whether it's donating money or just as importantly, or sometimes, and probably more so, more important, is donating your time and effort, which we really need, both to fill positions as well as to actually do work.
Great, great. Perfect. All right, Mark, thank you for coming on the podcast today. We appreciate hearing you talk about the Water Drinkers Caucus, the Libertarian Party, precious metals, the economy, all those good stuff.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
We wish you all the best in all those endeavors, and take care.
I will. You too.